I was born in Quito, Ecuador. My parents came to this country when I was 2 years old, so I essentially was raised in the Bronx, New York. I was a first-generation college student in the United States, so it's a totally new experience in terms of the words people use, the language people use. What's a bursar's office? What's a registrar's office? Things of that nature. The University of New Haven that was when I came here 14 years ago is very different than the University of New Haven is today. It's grown in enrollment. The campus is beautiful. When I first came, it was full of a lot of, there weren't really buildings. They were just places where they just put people. The upgrades have been wonderful, and the students are very diverse. Coming to this university 14 years ago was challenging, I think, as a woman and as a minority. I came into a psychology department that had one other woman in it. Otherwise, it was 7 or 8 men. I came into a faculty that was probably 95% men over 45. I tell the story often that my first faculty meeting, I walked into Alumni Hall, and I was a little late, so I sat in the back, and essentially it was a sea of white bald heads in front of me. And that was it. It was, there were a couple of minority women and a couple of minority men that I could, on one hand I could count. But you walk into that same room at the same time, in this new upcoming year, that won't be the case for a new woman coming in. I come from a blue collar family, and sometimes I felt like I'm not speaking the language that these people speak. And it's hard to articulate, but you walk into a committee meeting or something, and they're speaking a language that it all makes sense to them. And I'm not, it's not my language. I'm not sure. I also think that it was a culture of all men, right? So people spoke of things that were inappropriate to speak about, or they asked me to be the secretary and take the notes of the committee meetings, and things of that nature. And I had to say the same thing twice, where a man would have to say it once. To be taken seriously. Some of that was probably my age, but some of it is my gender, I believe. Relating to the students, our first generation, is probably my favorite part of the job, because it reminds me of who I was and who I am, because at the end of the day, I am the first generation college student. One of the things that is common among them is that they have the hopes and dreams of their whole families on their very young shoulders. In the psychology department, that's so important for me to say, calm down.